Zack Reynolds alongside Luke Hamilton and Oilers head coach Rob Murray before this episode of the Pipeline Podcast, brought to you by OilFire Whisky. And 1 week in the books, 2 games, and looking ahead, obviously, tomorrow, playing Wichita. I guess something that kind of jumps off the page is the fact that it's the only game this week, this Friday, and originally scheduled on October 30th, quite a while back, but now just the lone game. Early on in this season, do you kind of like having that gap to with newer players to try and help that out, or would you rather maybe play a couple more games this week and kind of get the feet wet a little quicker?
I think it's a happy medium, honestly. Playing 3 games in 2 weeks, and then even after Friday night's game, we don't play again until next Saturday. So the schedule is just so light to come out of the gate. And, when I say happy medium, I mean, I would prefer more games, but with obviously time to practice. But practice, you do it so every day, and it gets really redundant, even at this time of the year. We're doing the same drills, we're working on different things, but having just the 3 games in the first 2 weeks, I think a player wants to play hockey. They don't want to practice; they want to play. So it's tough. I mean, but I'll be complaining the other way around when we're in the trenches, when we're playing 11 games in 13 nights later on in the season. So you got to watch what you wish for, but it gives us a good chance, obviously coming off of Saturday night's loss in Kansas City, to kind of regroup, watch what we did wrong, or not necessarily wrong, but what we didn't do on Saturday evening compared to Friday night. And so it's given us a chance to prepare for the next game with that in our back pocket.
Speaking of last weekend, the opening weekend for the ECHL, 2 games for the Oilers, a historic first game for the Savannah Ghost Pirates. Just a lot going on in the league, to say the least. Opening night, a team came out of the gate looking sharp. And what did you see maybe out of your team opening night against Allen, leading into the game against Kansas City? And maybe what did the team do differently, like you're talking about in 2 nights? You get a chance to get right back out onto the ice on Saturday after opening night. On Friday, you play a team in Kansas City who was playing their opening night in their first game of the year. How do you sort of evaluate the first 2 games, looking at them back to back?
Well, Friday night we were really good. I mean, we played a real strong game, deserving of the win. And we did a lot of good things. We had a lot of energy. The 3 of us have talked about how you feed off of energy in a building, and we definitely did that on Friday night with 13,000 people in the building. It was a fantastic night. I mean, you want to write a script, and you want to say that opening night has a huge crowd, and the team does really, really well. Well, we did that Friday night, and that was really nice to see. I was very, very pleased. Saturday night, we honestly didn't have any legs, and it was a step backwards from what we did on Friday night. Like, there wasn't even. I can say that the first period we were okay. We come out of the first period 1-1, but it was just. As the game progressed, we didn't have any physicality. Our forecheck, to which, you guys mentioned in the pregame show, how we forechecked so hard against Allen. They had no time to get the puck out of the zone, and we maintained that forecheck. Well, that was non-existent on Saturday night, and it's always a mystery as a coach. Every coach will tell you, like, how does that happen? How do you play a certain way one night, and the next night not so much? And so Saturday night I was really disappointed. And one of the things that I always tell the guys, I've shared with you guys, you're not going to win every game, but there needs to be an honest effort and come away from that game thinking we gave it all we could. Bad bounce, whatever. Like you can make it not excuses, yet you could say, we had a chance. And quite honestly, we did not. It was only a 5-3 game, but being there, being in the atmosphere, being on the bench, I really did not feel like we had a chance. Now we made it 4-3 at the one when Jimmy scored, and I was like, then my mind shifted to, we can steal a point or maybe 2 points here because we do not deserve it right now. And unfortunately, they scored the fifth goal, yet Max missed a breakaway. Sadoway missed a tap-in on the back door that would have tied it up. So, sometimes you win or you're able to get points maybe when you don't deserve it. And I think that Saturday night we had that chance only because the game stayed as close as it was. But it was two different teams, and between Friday and Saturday, once again, it's a mystery that all us coaches have to try to figure out. And we watched and we compared video clips from Friday night to Saturday night, and night and day. I mean, it was here was our forecheck on Friday night. Here was our forecheck on Saturday night. Not the same team, and really inexcusable. You can say, oh well, Kansas City's just sitting at home. They didn't play last night. We had a 4-hour bus trip. No, I mean if you use that excuse in this league, you're never going to win a road game. And so that's something that obviously we got to rectify and be better at.
Taking a look at the personnel, Jimmy Soper and Jackson Leaf, we know that they've had chemistry from last season together in the playoffs and down the stretch. And they're two players, and I think some people think simple's a negative word, but they kind of play simple games, and I mean that entirely as a compliment, right? I think that's kind of the best way to play at the pro level. And now we see Farron joining with them on the line, and he's looked really good as well. He's got points in both games and had a multi-assist game on Saturday, and he's tied in assists now with Jackson atop the team with 3. And looking at him through camp and preseason, was he a player that you saw early on and maybe identified that he could be someone that would fit with them, or did it just kind of happen over time and you're not really sure where you can pinpoint it?
No, I was very pleased with Farron throughout training camp, and not in a surprised way. It was just I was just very pleased that he was as good as he was. Again, hard to put your finger on it, but I'm going to use a phrase like he looks like a player, and he carries himself that way. He does a lot of good things out there. He's crafty. Like he ducked his shoulder there on Friday night and went in around the defenseman one time, and that's a line that's pretty straight line. Yet you got some sneaky skill still with that group. And when I point out our inability to play a good game on Saturday night, that line definitely had a good game. But they were the only horses we had in the race, and that's not acceptable. We can't have that happen. And there's a couple of other guys that need to step up. I mean, we're looking at analytically. You look at different things, and a guy like Jack Doremus who played obviously both games. And Jack right now through 2 games has 1 shot on net. And if we're going to be successful, yes, Jimmy Soper's line, and let's call it Jimmy Soper's line, whoever, regardless who the wingers are, is going to be my quote unquote checking line. Mm-hmm. And yes, they're going to win games for us, and they're going to contribute, but they're not going to be able to do it every night. And so other guys have to pick up the slack. Way too early to get too worried about this. But again, you look at the stats, and when you got Jack playing with Maxi and Campagna, that line should be really effective. And Jack, I mean, everybody goes through a little bit of a dry spell. Let's hope that Jack right now, we talked to him the other day, and I think it's not an issue. But when you look at what why and when we win or lose games, some guys have to produce in a different way. And shots on net don't win you games. Yet Jack's shot getting to the net wins you games. Mm-hmm. And when he only has 1 shot on net in 2 games, he knows. And we talked about it. And he has to pick his game up in that situation.
Shifting our focus a little bit towards the goaltenders, it wasn't in the cards necessarily to see Eric Dopp as early as we have been able to see him here, but had a chance to play late in the game on Saturday. What did you think of the pro debut for Eric Dopp? And was there a response from your team, that was adequate for you in making the goaltender change, whether it be specifically in net or just to get some energy with that team to try to make a difference in the hockey game?
I liked this game, actually. I mean, it was very similar to how Manello got his first game. Last year when McDonald got hurt in the game and Manello went in and finished the game, and we got the win in Kansas City. Dopp going in, I pulled Manny. He's been better than Saturday night. A couple of really good shots, though, and the guys in front of him really weren't paying the price to get in the way of those shots. But when Eric Dopp came in, I thought he was calm. He played well, made a couple of really good saves. The goal that beat him, honestly, there was bodies all over the place. He just could not pick it up. It went through at least 4 or 5 bodies before it went in the net, and you call that a seeing eye shot. Chances are 9 times out of 10 that's going to hit something on the way in, and that one just found its way to the back of the net. I came away from that again. There's always a silver lining, I suppose. But the silver lining was getting a chance to put Dopper in the net and see how he reacted, and we were very pleased.
Kind of going with that, you mentioned that last shot going through. I think we counted on the replay. It seemed that there's 9 legs that had barely missed, as you said, going through. If they had maybe had their hair on end, it would have caught the puck. So, like you said, really good performance out of him to see, and him coming into that first game. But you mentioned the defenseman in front of him, maybe not blocking shots or not paying the price. Of course, Mike McKee, a guy that's really good at that. Haven't seen him yet this season. And then you've got Chris Perna as well, who we haven't seen yet. And where do you expect him to maybe slide into the lineup? And is there a timetable for either of them to be seen this season?
Well, I think there's rumors out there. I've told you guys, this. I'm not on Facebook. I'm not on Instagram. I'm not anything like that. I am not sitting Mike McKee out. I've got people telling me that there's comments saying that the coach is sitting Mike McKee out because he doesn't like fighting. Well, that's absurd. Mike is injured. Mike right now is injured, and he is not in the lineup because of that. Chris Perna, first year guy, he's our 7 right now, and we'll get him in the lineup. Really getting back to your very, very first question about the light schedule. This is where that is an issue because, if we had a 3-3, or if we played, say, in the first 2 weeks, 4 or 5 games, I believe Chris Perna would have gotten into a game just through rotation. But right now, I still haven't come to a total conclusion on how we're going to look tomorrow night in Wichita. Yet, because of the only one game this weekend, it's tough, when you got those healthy bodies sitting around. And Mike is... I think our target is next Saturday for him to be back, and so he's been practicing, he's been working hard, but talking to him after practice today, he's just not ready yet, and so he'll be back as soon as he can be back. He'll be back in the lineup.
Looking at the schedule, you'll have 3 different opponents in 3 different games to start the year. You've got Allen on opening night, Kansas City the following Saturday, and then we get to see Wichita for the first time, but it's not the only time we'll see Wichita. Sometimes as broadcasters, it's a little bit of a luxury that you get to look a little bit further ahead, maybe, at the schedule, but 9 of the next 13 games are against the Wichita Thunder. We're going to wear them out, and they're going to wear us out, over the next month and a half or so here. And when you look at that portion of the schedule, how important is it to just find some momentum in that head-to-head matchup right out of the gate against an opponent that not only you're familiar with and have been familiar with, but there's always going to be new faces in new places, and that's what you've got here coming in to this year.
Well, I think the league needs to redo their algorithm on how they put the schedule together, because I don't look too far ahead in the schedule. But it did catch me a while back, that we had 5 games straight against them.
There's a 5-game set, and then there's a 4-game set again at the end of the month.
And then, so end of October through the month of November, we play them 9 out of the 13 games that we have. And so how do we prepare? This week we've been preparing the team for that. Exactly. Like we're only seeing one team. It's like a playoff series. And we have to learn, we have to know our opponent inside out. It's inside and out. Now, we can really focus on Wichita, whereas they do have games sprinkled in against other teams within this 9 games that we're playing them. But it's amazing, and I haven't looked far enough ahead in the schedule, but I mean, I don't even know when we play them again after the 9 games.
I think it's till January.
Yeah, so you know, it's actually, quite honestly, I mean, it's 9 out of 13, 5 in a row coming up against Wichita. Like, we can really make or break our season here. Like, and that's the scary thought, is that if you look back, man, we had a great run against Wichita in October and November, or went 50-50 or whatever, right? Like, this could be the difference in how the whole season goes. And you know, we're approaching it that way. We're approaching it that, as I said, we've done video, we've done specific drills in practice. When we go into a weekend, a normal weekend, where maybe we see 3 different teams, or maybe 2 and then a third. So you're always pre-scouting different teams. Now, you know, for the next 5 games, we are only concentrated on Wichita, and for that reason, practice this week, and hopefully it pays off in the games, was specific to what we expect to see from Wichita. And you know, it's almost like an NFL team getting ready for Sunday afternoon. That you got one team to focus on, and that's all you're thinking about. And that's how we're going into this 5-game set, and then after that. But for the most part, let's look at the first 5 games. Not even that. Let's look at tomorrow night, and then get a good read on what they've got. I mean, we saw them in preseason, but Rammer didn't play any of his players. I mean, like the guys. I mean, I'm smart enough to know, like all the guys that played in that exhibition game when we won 3-1, were a lot of guys that are no longer on that roster anymore. So they've got a much better team than we saw in preseason, and we have to be ready for them tomorrow night.
You're listening to the Pipeline Podcast presented by OilFire. We'll be right back right after this.
The Tulsa Oilers are back on the ice. With a new owner, a new look, and a new attitude. Save big on season tickets today. 2022-23 season. Tickets starting as low as $17 per month. Get your season tickets at TulsaOilers.com. TulsaOilers.com. Experience hard-hitting, glove-dropping, pulse-pounding, glass-rattling kind of thrill. Season tickets available now at TulsaOilers.com. This is your town, your team, your Tulsa Oilers are back.
We're back here on the Pipeline Podcast, presented to you by OilFire. We were just mentioning, playing Wichita a ton coming up here, and you kind of talked about preparing like an NFL week, and where you're seeing a team and doing game film in your pre-scouting. What's kind of jumped off the page? Obviously, you're familiar with Bruce Ramsey and what he does, and a lot of these players on this Wichita team, but there's always tweaks, and with the new affiliate, new faces there, personnel-wise. Is there anything or anybody that's maybe jumped off the page?
Not specifically, Zach. I mean, yeah, there's different players that we'll learn about. The way they play is similar. I mean, to the way that they've played for the past few years. So more so interested in see what their affiliated players bring. Where their strengths and weaknesses are, and they got a guy down yesterday. I'm not sure what his name is, but looking him up, he had very, very strong junior numbers. So you got to imagine he's going to be a pretty good player for them. So depending on how all these guys fit together, it's a new team. There's still the Fourniers and the Dickmans and Butenhouse. Like the same. Those guys are back, but the affiliation has changed, and they've got a couple new faces in the lineup that should make a difference, and we got to be aware of them.
When you look at affiliated players, especially when you're maybe a roster that has a different amounts of affiliated guys all the time. It seems to be changing up and down, up and down. The more affiliated guys you have, I think the assumption is the better your team's going to be, right? But is it more just maybe about having a consistent number or specific players at a consistent rate on your roster? You look at a team like Newfoundland, they have upwards of 15 players that are affiliated players at the AHL or NHL level on their roster, but if these guys are bouncing up and down constantly, there's no real way to get any chemistry, is there, at the ECHL level? What are your thoughts just on that and evaluating opponents upcoming at all times, and then even your own team?
Well, I think that the help that you get from your affiliate it's invaluable, really. I mean, you can look at different years, different teams. I mean, we had a team. I had a lot of really good ECHL free agents or ECHL contracted players. Well, the year I won the Kelly Cup in Alaska, the help I got from Calgary that year was outstanding, and those players made the difference when it all was all said and done. We go up against Utah, 7th game last year. We don't have one affiliated player in our lineup, and they've got 8 or 9. You can sit here and bellyache, but it's crystal clear. The teams that have the most help from their affiliate. And you don't have to look any further than Newfoundland. I mean, Newfoundland is a juggernaut every year. And it's because their whole team is made up of guys on American League deals that are, I don't know why Newfoundland or why the Toronto organization is so concerned about Newfoundland, yet that's how they do it. And yeah, there's ups and downs. Like, guys are coming, like, I don't think that really tips the ship one way or another. But the more guys, theoretically, that you get from your American League affiliate definitely should help your team be better in the long run.
We kind of touched on it earlier with the lines, and we mentioned Soper and Farron and Leaf. And then, of course, we've seen pretty much the same units for most of it throughout the opening 2 games. With those lines, I mean, I know things are kind of ever-changing. Have you been looking at certain guys and thinking that they would maybe go with other players that you maybe didn't know their full set in a live environment before this weekend? And obviously, you've got you mentioned you're still kind of working on it, but this year carrying the 23 skaters through that first month, so a couple of options going in and out.
Yeah, and not only guys going in and out, but I thought Tyler Polson played very well both nights. Brought a lot of energy, but was basically an extra guy on the bench as far as either the 10th or 11th forward. And it's hard now. Not hard, but he, in my eyes, he deserves a little bit more ice time. Who doesn't? How do we switch that around? How do we find that? Sometimes the game takes care of itself that way anyways. But you've got a couple of guys that we've moved lines around a little bit this week compared to what we had on the weekend, or last weekend. So there'll be a few tweaks, yet it's too early to just blow everything up either also. And when I say too early, we're 1-1. I mean, we had a great game on Friday, and so I think that the line combinations that we have as of right now should work. And if they do, then that's great. I don't have to do much work. If they don't, then yes, we'll start looking at what we can do to maybe mix and match, and who benefits or could be more creative or is a better player with a certain other player.
And we've looked at the forwards quite a bit here. The D pairs as well, certainly a big emphasis, playing some good hockey on opening night, and some things to reevaluate, of course, after games like Saturday, where you almost stole a point away from Kansas City in a game that the Oilers just didn't necessarily keep themselves in it as consistently as they should have. And you look at the D pairs with Mike McKee potentially coming back here soon. Is there a D pair when Mike McKee comes back that you just feel like you can't separate at all, that's not going to be affected by McKee getting back in the lineup? And then, what is your idea with McKee as a D pair mate?
Right now, if I had my wish, if Mike was healthy, he would be playing with Justin Bean. And I think him and Bean would be a very good shutdown pairing. And I thought Beaner played very well both nights. Made an outstanding play on the 5-on-3 against on Friday night that might go unseen, yet could have been the difference in the game. And little things that he's done, but you couple him with Mike, and Mike has always been, maybe not so much his first year, but as his game, his career has progressed, he has become that shutdown guy. Him and Hamonic a couple of years ago, him and Lish last year for the majority of the season. You know what? They're not gonna light up the scoreboard, but when given the opportunity, they should be very hard to play against for the opposing team's best guys. And so that would be my wish list right now. If Mike was healthy, I think we would put him with Justin Bean. I thought Hildy played really well both games. Carl Boudreas, he's got a little bit of a nasty to him that I like, and he's a quiet kid, but all of a sudden and then Jarvis fighting Robideau pretty early in the game on Friday. I mean, that was I liked a lot of the things that we did, and our decor. Quite honestly, I think what we missed. Yeah, we gave up 5 goals on Saturday night, but I don't know that it was like blatant giveaways. It was just our inability to maintain offensive zone pressure and time in zone, and that honestly that falls on the forwards.
Sticking with that, you talk about getting offensive zone time and that being a forward's kind of responsibility to keep the puck in on the forecheck. And you've also mentioned this before, how important it is the first pass on the breakout, but that's not the end of it. And typically teams are playing best, and especially your teams stringing 3-4 passes together, 2-3 passes together, which we saw a lot on Friday. Saturday, obviously we don't have as good of a look at the whole picture of things as the game's going on. How was that on Saturday night? The breakouts and guys through the neutral zone catching passes. Was it a lot more limited than we saw on Friday?
It was a lot. We had a little bit harder time coming out of our zone clean than we did on a Friday night. I think maybe it was just puck decisions and also retrievals. Like when we got ourselves in trouble, we weren't going back for the puck very hard, and they were coming hard, and we didn't give ourselves enough time to make the play that needed to be made. As far as stringing passes together, I agree. Like coming out of the zone on Friday night, we were zipping it. I mean, you're right. There was 3-4 touches before we hit the offensive blue line, and we were really moving. And then Saturday, just lack of a better word, of sloppy. We made a couple good plays. Really good play on Leifer's goal by that line on the line rush with Jimmy and Michael, but it was few and far between. That was the problem. And then we weren't handling pucks. We weren't in areas that we were in. And when I say areas, like we're playing fast, we're stretching the zone. That secondary help for the puck wasn't in the area code when he needed to be. And again, we didn't seem to have our legs. But for me and the decor, like there was not necessarily a guy you could say, wow, he was overmatched tonight or whatever. I think they scored some nice goals. I mean, McKenna's goals. I mean, bar down. Three of them. DeBarge's goal, bar down. Like, I mean, the goals that they scored were NHL shots, and so. But I mean, you can always work back from that, and how did they get that shot, and why did we not block that shot, or how do we allow them to get that shot? So, the goals that they scored were really good, almost like highlight reel goals, and. On the other side of the puck, again, we were just kind of whacking and hacking away at it where we weren't necessarily too precise with our plays.
And shortly before we go, just one player I wanted to harken back on. I wanted to harken back on, in particular, one player last year that won the Most Improved Player award here with the Oilers was Jared Hilderman. We talked about him just not long ago. And I think as broadcasters, we thought about that over the offseason. We said, He was probably the most improved player towards the end of the regular season going into the postseason. But hey, now what are you going to do with that? Next year, turn of the leaf, Jared Hilderman comes out. We get a chance to see him in the first 2 games of the season, and we just kept looking back and forth. His skating ability, I think, in short space at the top of the blue line, his ability to get pucks in deep for you. He's been working hard in the offseason. You can just tell without being there next to him while he's working in the offseason. What have you seen out of him? And it seems like not only has he been the most improved player, but he's continuing to improve. Went from a healthy scratch, here and there last season to he's in the lineup every night.
Yeah, no, Hildy's been playing really well, and I'm really pleased with his how he's come back. And we can look at the exhibition games too. I mean, you're always being assessed, and I thought he was really good in those games too. And when Hildy got in trouble last year, and we would talk about it in our pregame interviews, is when he didn't keep it simple. And you already used the word, and you said people find that offensive. But no, simple is okay. To play a simple hockey game there's nothing wrong with that. And it's when you try to, basically expand your game to where you cannot be effective. And at times it's what happened to Hildy last year. He tried to do too much. Play within your limitations. Do what you can do at the best of your ability, and everything else will take care of itself. Then, you know what? Then maybe there's a little leeway to try something. You know what I mean? You don't just
confidence with that.
Yes,
right?
You don't just come out of the gate, I'm going to do this spinorama at the blue line or whatever, right? So I think he's got our message that as long as just the simple plays, especially on our breakouts, getting out of the zone, just that quick pass right away. Move that puck quick, get pucks through from the point, simplify your game, which we asked him to do throughout the season last year when he got it, and he like you said, he won most improved player. Either that means he was really, 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 really bad at the beginning of the season, or he actually got better. But I like what he's been bringing, but the simplicity of what he's doing needs to be consistent, so that now, yes, we can expand your game. Let's maybe allow you to do this in a situation, because maybe you can. But until we get to that point, just keep it simple and keep playing your game, and it's going to be beneficial for the team.
Just before we close it out, just talking a little bit with Andrew Jarvis at the training camp, just about the division, right? The Mountain Division coming in this season. We were talking about some player signings that we had seen, and he had mentioned that once again, this seems like a very, very difficult division. Obviously, just a couple of games in, but from what you've kind of heard, seen on the scoreboards and everything like that, is it kind of how you're expecting it to be how it normally is, where there's 7 teams that are going to be jockeying for the playoffs in the back half of the year, probably 6 teams jockeying down to the last 2 days?
Yeah, it always is.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, one way or another, it always seems to be that way. And, you got some good teams out there right now. Rapid City's got a strong team. Idaho's strong. Utah is going to be strong again. Allen, I think, has got some nice pieces. Kansas City I was impressed with their team on Saturday night. We'll see Wichita tomorrow, but I know, the parity within the division it always seems to be that way. I mean, there just doesn't seem to be a team that just falls right off the map, or maybe 2 or 3 teams. Like you look in the Central Division or the South Division last year. I mean, you had a couple teams that were out of the playoffs that you're licking your chops when you're playing them. As many times as we all play each other in divisional play, but here it's a battle every night. Every single night is a battle to see who comes out with the 2 points.
Well, that'll do it for this episode of the Pipeline Podcast presented by OilFire. Catch you guys out lone game this week, Friday at Intrust Bank Arena against the Wichita Thunder. Game will start at 7:05 p.m. and you can catch us on Flow Sports or the Mixler app. And that'll start at 6:45 p.m.